10 years ago, I had nothing. I was young. I had no connection. I didn't even have a clear plan for my personal growth. And here I am, a successful entrepreneur and an exemplary woman. Today, in this episode, I want to share with you my journey to building a successful creative business like Wood Habitat. And I want to share with you 10 lessons that I learned that shaped and guided me through failures, breakthrough, and growth. I remember owing the landlord of our little warehouse 12 months of rent. And you don't want to be in that situation. And I was an entrepreneur with very limited resources, but with a big idea. My guiding idea was that I have to be of great contribution to myself, to my family, and to my country. In this episode, I want to share with you my simplified 10 lessons that I learned over the past 10 years. And I'm hoping that you are able to apply at least one of these lessons for your next level in life. I am simplifying my 10 years journey of hardship, of failures, into 10 steps, 10 lessons that will allow you to move to your next level in life. And this is a gift to my large community. So let's go. Lesson number 10. Lesson number 10 is one that I'm still learning. And it's a lesson that I'm extremely passionate about. This lesson will make you a trailblazer. This lesson is a lesson that I would teach my children. I like to discuss with friends. It's one of the most important lessons, and it's one that I keep on learning. The lesson is give more than you expect to receive. I remember learning this lesson a little bit too late when I had made a lot of mistakes of thinking that the more I gave, the more I was depleted. The more, especially giving to people, giving time, giving kindness, giving peace, even working with my team, giving trust. I felt like even in a business context, like giving to customers, to clients, sometimes I felt like, I remember this moment I shared with one of my colleagues, and I say, there's this particular client who seems like even if I would be giving my legs and arms, they would take them. And I remember going home feeling like so heavy and so done about giving. But now I know what I did wrong and what I did right. And it doesn't mean that giving more than you expect to receive will ever be wrong. Giving more than you expect to receive comes from a certain mindset. It is guided by structure and systems, and is established in our lives by principles. I hope you're going to stay for our next longer episode. Lesson number 9. My lesson number 9, which is still my favorite, I even apply it today, even tomorrow, even on this podcast that I'm launching. I'm applying it, and I hope my team is applying it. Are you? Every day. It is do 1% better every day. And it's do. I realize as a creative entrepreneur, as a visionary, as a strategist, I would tend to just stay on the strategy page, and I would tend to continue to obsess about the ideas and their ideas. And one thing that I call deliverance that happened to me is the lesson that I learned from this book, and I started applying it even when I was reading the book. The book is, of course, Atomic Habit. And I love that book and the author. And I learned one rule in life, that is do 1% better every day. Lesson number 8. These lessons. When I was preparing all of them, I was like, okay, so which one of these lessons have I really, really mastered? And the truth is, I continue to learn and to apply these lessons. Lesson number 8 is you don't have to make what can be real. And this one, I'm really particularly speaking to my younger self and to our generation. We've heard the saying that goes, fake it until you make it. And I used to believe that. And I'm so sorry I did believe that. But it's one of the worst mindsets ever. I now figured that I don't have to fake anything, that everything, even the dreams we have, all of them are possible. It only requires us to be prepared. But people sometimes prepare through their faking. But the issue of that preparation that comes from faking is we build on sand. That analogy of building on a sand or rock. So yeah, that's lesson number 8. I realized in my life, I don't want to fake anything. I'll give you this story. I'll share with you this story. So I drive a truck that I'm not particularly in love with, that has been with me for 8 years. My friends, all of them know my truck, and they know how much I am not the biggest fan of my truck, but I still love it. And it's in good shape, you know. And I remember one day I had to shoot this content, you know, and then of course I really wanted to rent a nice car to shoot in this, you know, for my content. And I realized I was going against the law that governs my life, which is the law of never faking anything. So then I said, we occasionally rent cars for our corporate missions, let's say when we have guests, and we use our usual cars on our daily operations. I didn't end up renting the car. Guess what? I shot the cute content in my not nice car, which is a truck. So anyways, I learned that I would not fake anything that can be real. Lesson number 7, never give an excuse. The weakness you allow is the excuse you give. And that is the limitation you set on yourself. Every time you give an excuse, I like to look at it this way, that every time I'm giving an excuse for something that I'm not doing right, or for the person that I'm not choosing to be, or that I'm not working to be, it's like putting myself in a box or in a prison. So stop giving excuses. So lesson number 6 is, it's not a matter of yes or no. It's really, really, really about the laws that govern our lives. That lesson is still hard. I remember I read a lot, and I continue to read, and I consume educational content in podcasts and other forms of high quality content that changes and helps my mindset to improve. And one of the biggest topics that I read about is yes or no. But then recently I kept asking myself, some people do believe that you say yes to people, like you say no to people. You know, there is, especially when it comes to relationships, that you always have to have a yes or no. And then recently I realized, especially because of my faith, I do believe in God heavily, and I'm sold out to Christ. I realized that, for example, in sport, in fitness, there is no yes day to cheat day. And there is no to people with bad energy. And I realized that the Word of God is the biggest truth, and everything we are sharing, or everything that the smartest people in the world are ever sharing or teaching us. Every great thing in life is only given by God. Even the great ideas, the great mindset, the great strategies. Then I remember asking the Holy Spirit, like, is it really a matter of yes or no? He said, no. It is a matter of the laws that govern your life. If the law of love is governing your life, loving myself as I love my neighbor, it will be okay for me to always say yes to helping somebody. Like, for example, in my fitness journey, I said no to cheat days. It's not about the no. It's not even about the yes. It's really about asking myself, what law, what principle is governing my life? If there is a government, if there is a CEO of my life, what is it? And I realized the CEO of my life in that specific area of fitness is being healthy, strong, and beautiful. And that law does not allow me to have cheat days. Lesson number 5. Scarce resources, which means money or people, the things you actually don't have, are great areas of your life where you can learn to be innovative. And I have proven myself that this is true every time. It doesn't mean that we don't want abundance or to have enough resources, even more than enough, like enough great people, enough great teams, enough great friendships, enough money, even more than enough, like abundant money, abundance in every area of our life. But this is specifically for people who are facing a level of limitation in terms of resources. And I realized every time there was a level of limitation in resources, like there were scarce resources, I've been very innovative. I remember this season, it was a very tough year for wood habitat. And I started reading a book by one of the founders of Nike, the brand. And one great lesson that I learned from that book was that they were super innovative at the start because they didn't have resources. They didn't have the people it takes. They didn't have the money it takes. I remember them giving even an example of how they will use their van as as literally a hotel. They will sleep in their van, eat in their van, and use it as a shop during the day. Like people come to their van to buy shoes. That's the very first Nike. Lesson number 4. This one is very close to my heart, and I'm so sorry if it offends somebody. I'm not here to offend anyone. I am here to share mistakes that I made. And this one is a mistake that I made a lot. And I don't want you to continue to make the same mistake. This mistake comes from a mindset and an idea that be confident. Confidence is everything. But we always have to have what confidence is in the right perspective. When I talk about this, I really want to use the general perspective of what confidence is to many people. Don't be overconfident. Overconfidence is killing your growth. And it makes people resent you and resist your offer, resist your energy. And I like to look at it this way. The truth that we know, the areas that we know we still need growth in, that we refuse to share with others, we don't even share it with ourselves. Which means, okay, let me give you an example. Let me tell you a story. I remember there was this time that I really used to think that I know everything, There was a time that I used to be like, especially when it comes to be a creative entrepreneur, that they will ask you, so how much are you charging for this job? And I used to be like, I know my value, I know my time, I know my expertise. So I am charging, like I would say, an amount without background check of what really is my ability and what really is the value I am able and willing to offer. And without really checking within myself, is the value that I'm promising, am I able to keep up with it? So what I realized, especially in our generation, as I interact with many people, partners, teams, collaborators, and the reason why I'm sharing with you this lesson is that I have gained so much when I was confident in knowing how much I'm willing to put in the work to find the solution. And I come to the client, I went to my partners, I went to my collaborators and say, look, I don't know everything. And I'm not here to tell you that I know everything, but all I can promise is my diligence. I will be diligent at finding the solution. I will not promise that I know everything that there is to know, but I will promise you that the systems, the structures, and the discipline that it takes for me to achieve your success with you, I will put it in place. And I've realized that energy of humility have caused people to even give me so much more than what I was even going to charge in my overconfident mind. Lesson number 3. Plan. God help me. God help me with this one. I'm still learning it. That's why it's among my top 3. plan like a soldier, like a military soldier, like a general. Plan and plan and plan. So recently I realized that I have some goals from 2023 that I have not been able to achieve. And I was like, I like to go to where I fail and really take it just as an exercise ground to be like, why did I fail to achieve this? And then I started doing this more often and more intentionally to ask myself, why did I fail to achieve this? And I remember sometimes I used to give myself excuses of people, of time, of money, of every other thing that we would give as an excuse why we are not moving forward, why we are not growing, why we are not serving better, why we are not offering a better service, why we are not offering a better product. And I realized it was just in 70% of the time, it was because of no planning, of poor plans. And I started thinking in my mind that I'm going to be that wise person who spend 70% of the time on preparation and planning, on understanding how, like obsessing on the how, on the when, and on the who, before I obsess about the what. As a visionary and as a creative, we tend to really love the what and the why. And I am that kind of person. I can sit the whole day, write essays, write books about the why and the what, the why and the what. But then when it comes to how and who and when, that is the success factor. And I really want, and myself included, one thing I'm learning this time is that every area of my life, I pick 3 areas of my life every week or every month or every season that I go in fully in preparation and in planning. I started realizing that we have chances 90% higher success when we are well planned and well prepared. Lesson number 2. This one is very close to my heart. It's not a lesson, it's a lifestyle. Lesson number 2. Pray about every little thing and every big thing and everything in between. Pray. Prayer is strategy. When I started looking at prayer strategy, it stopped being a chore. It stopped being something that I have to do, that I don't know how to do, that is too hard, that is too weird, that is everything that we think about it. I started praying about, I'll tell you a story. There was a particular time that I had a lot of skin issues. I had skin issues in my face and on my back. And I was really, really, like, I didn't know the solution. I had, tried a few things that I knew then. And then I remember starting to pray about it. And it worked. So with prayer and skincare routine and taking care of myself, it really got so much better. And I don't have that issue anymore. Prayers about customer service. As an entrepreneur, there are some, especially one area that I want to confess, that is really, really so hard, that does not depend exactly on how much you want to satisfy your customers, but really depends on so many things that are beyond our control, is clients and customer satisfaction. And I remember, and I even now, it's one of the prayers that I pray constantly, that I pray every day. And of course, it's not only about prayer, because prayer is a strategy, and every strategy have deliverables. I also deliver on my prayers. That's for the next episode. I will tell you more about that. Finally, lesson number 1. Let me tell you a story. I remember when I was a kid vividly. So my mom her background is in teaching. So she used to be a primary teacher. You can imagine how primary teachers are. So she was a teacher even at home. she's like very serious mom. And she constantly said something in Kinyarwanda, kwisobanukirwa. Like you do something wrong, and then she'd be like, ntago wisobanukiwe. And then when you do something really well and she's proud of you, just her way to say I'm proud of you until today, she's like, nawonye warisobanukiwe. And I realized that it's a Kinyarwanda word that is very deep. There's no direct translation of that, but it can, if I try to translate it, kwisobanukirwa means knowing who you are, knowing your worth, knowing your value internally, but also externally. And I will explain to you. My mom, I will give you examples. My mom used to say that a person wisobanukiwe, so person who have that, they don't speak a certain way, they don't dress a certain way, they don't do certain things. And now one lesson that I'm applying every day in 2025 this year, and that I will continue to apply for the rest of my life, which I even chose as the guideline for our 10th year anniversary, which is dedicated to contribution. So our 10th year it's a year of contribution. It's the year that I really want to contribute in the area of kwisobanukirwa, in the area of giving more value. And the way I found that kwisobanukirwa, and the reason why I chose it to be the main thing for my life, for the rest of my life, even especially this specific year, is that once that is mastered, because it's a life journey, once that is mastered, it really brings an automation in our lives, an automation for success, an automation for growth, and automation for living a life of purpose. So kwisobanukirwa to me which is the lesson number 1 is kwisobanukirwa, which is to me in my life translates as the fear of God, fearing God and loving Him with my heart, with my own heart, like loving God deeply, loving God with our own heart, and reverencing Him, honoring Him. I always like to look at God like, like a public figure that I admire a lot. Like, for example, I really admire my president. So when I look at, I imagine if my president invited me, the way I love him causes me to respect him. So I will not say certain things, I will not dress certain ways before meeting him. So the relationship that I want with God who is always with me, is Him to find me in a place that will cause Him to always look at me and be like, yeah, you're my girl, I'm proud of you. That kind of, I want, one thing that I really want to hear from God, and that I know I have a level of responsibility. The reason why this is lesson number 1 for me, I realize there is nothing in this world that I want to achieve, or that the kind of person that I want to be, that God cannot help me with. Not only help me with, that God cannot help me become or do. Fear God and deeply love God. And how I continue to do that, I literally continue to pray about it. And I continue to ask Him to help me love Him truly, love Him deeply, actually have a bond with Him. And I continue to ask Him to help me fear Him and obey Him. Not fear because I'm afraid, I'm paralyzed, no. Just the fear of respect, of reverence. Because I realized, guess what? Every wild ideas or dreams we want, of the things we want, there's nothing too great for Him. And everything that we get with Him is sustained for forever. So thank you so much. Those are my 10 lessons over the past 10 years. And if you continue to comment and to engage with my content and to share it, it would really tell me that you really want to dig deeper into each one of these lessons, so that I'm able to share with you more, and I'm able to share with you even worksheets, every tool that I used that helped me. I do believe that as the future of Africa, us, as the future of the whole world, actually, we have so much to share so that we can win all together. So these are my 10 lessons. Please do let me know which one is your favorite and which one do you want to put in action, to start to put in action right now, or which one is already working and you have mastered. One last thing, I wanted to remind you that this is a space where we are contributing to our larger community. This is a gift to my larger community. And I am here to hear from you so that we can keep the podcast coming. Thank you so much for being part of the contributors and for being part of the Africa that believes that we are the solution the world is looking for. Thank you so much for being part of the perspective of a trailblazer.